Remember the great movie Smokey and the Bandit? Well, today we're looking at the secret truth behind one of the most classic friendships in American history, Jerry Reed and Burt Reynolds. So how did Burt turn Jerry from a no-name guitar picker to a movie star? And how did Jerry change country music forever? What was Burt's dark secret? And most importantly, was his famous friendship with Jerry a complete fabrication? Before we begin, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Now you ready? Well, the place is crawling with bears, so we'd better hit the road and go find out.
What happened?
Smokey and the Bandit. An unforgettable flick for so many reasons. It's an example of Burt Reynolds in his absolute prime. I think the action sequences are just spectacular.
Yes, it would.
And last but not least, it was the source of the absolute classic tune Eastbound and Down by Jerry Reed, who of course also starred in the film as the Bandit's spotter Smokey. So in the film, Smokey and the Bandit are thick as thieves. But what about in real life? Were Burt and Jerry really friends? Or as in the case for so many co-stars, did they secretly hate each other? Jerry Reed. Jerry Reed was born in Atlanta into an unstable home. His parents separated 4 months after his birth. And terribly, he spent most of his first 7 years in orphanages and foster homes. But these grim beginnings didn't stop little Jerry from dreaming. So he started playing guitar in elementary school, and by the time he was a teen, he dropped out of high school. He made up his mind and stuck to it. He was trying to pick at honky-tonks and clubs across Atlanta. So if you don't know, Jerry had a special way of playing guitar called the claw. Named that after the way his right hand looked when he was getting down. Look, if you were a country musician back then, there was basically a checklist of everything you did as a young man. Well, Jerry burned right through that list faster than most. Get a record deal at 18, check. Marry a fellow country musician, singer Prissy Mitchell, check. Join the army, check. Leave the army, check. Move to Nashville, check. Spend years and years struggling and writing hits for other people? Yep, check. Finally, Jerry was a well-established and respected writer and session player. He famously wrote and played guitar for the Elvis tunes Guitar Man and U.S. Mail.
Tampa with the property of the U.S. Mail.
But Jerry Reed still had a dream. He wanted to act. I think you can almost tell by just listening to his songs. Instead of singing, he loved to rattle off witty, hilarious monologues. Kinda like Johnny Cash would do in A Boy Named Sue. Jerry's first acting gig wasn't exactly a big break. He played himself in a Scooby-Doo movie.
Seats in the house, right up front. That's the least I could do.
But his next opportunity would be a bit meatier. He was cast in a movie called W.W. and the Dixie Dance Kings. And that film happened to star a guy by the name of Burt Reynolds. And what happened next would change both their lives forever. Enter Burt. Now I know Burt Reynolds doesn't need a whole lot of introduction.
Why do you want that beer so bad?
Because he's thirsty, dummy.
The jokester charm, the rugged good looks, the mustache, which he allegedly grew to distinguish himself from Marlon Brando, who loathed him and accused him of copying him. But Burt is as famous as the American flag. So how did he end up in Jerry's neck of the woods? Well, a big part of his appeal was that he seemed like an authentic, backwoods kind of guy. And that just wasn't an act. Burt just adored country music. He had a hand in helping Dolly Parton turn into a regional oddity into a national superstar. He dated country music legend Tammy Wynette, and he dotted his movies with music from great guys like Don Williams. But he needed something more, a guy who he could rely on to give his movies a signature twang. And that's when he met Jerry Reed on the set of that W.W. and the Dixie Dance Kings film. And the rest is history. So let's go learn it. Partners in crime. Most people around that time wouldn't look at Jerry and see a star in the making. Sure, he could play the guitar like the devil, and he was a charismatic guy, but he was no Burt Reynolds. And no, that's not a fair comparison. But what did Burt see in him? Well, in 1976, Burt got his first chance to direct a film, the violent, raunchy action flick Gator. Actually a sequel to his movie White Lightning. The movie had a pretty bad script, but Burt had always wanted to sit in that really tall chair. So he accepted it, and he knew exactly who he wanted in it, Jerry Reed. But the real hit ended up being the 1977 classic film Smokey and the Bandit. Burt and Jerry's characters teamed up to smuggle a truck full of Coors from Texarkana to Atlanta in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Simply put, the film is a classic, full of genuine Southern charm. If you haven't seen it, please watch it now. But what really sets the film apart is the soundtrack, and Jerry wrote the tune Eastbound and Down just for the film. Now it's a honky-tonk standard. The film earned itself 2 sequels, and Smokey and Snowman became American folk heroes. But there's more to this story. Burt was hiding a huge secret, and it couldn't stay hidden forever. Burt's big secret. Burt always claimed to hail from Georgia, and while this wasn't a cornerstone of his identity, it did mean something. After all, movies like Smokey and the Bandit and their soundtracks were steeped as deeply in Southern culture as a glass of sweet tea.
Excuse me, sir. Your ass is on fire. Bet you'll be glad to get back in Canada and stick in the snow.
But was it true? Where did Burt really come from? Well, okay, so Burt's dad was in the army, so he naturally got used to moving around a whole lot. He and his family spent time in Michigan, Missouri, and Florida, finally settling down near Palm Beach. But it wasn't until late in his life, relatively recently actually, that he revealed he was actually born in Lansing, Michigan, the home of Michigan State University. So why did he want to be a Georgia peach so bad? Well, I don't know. Maybe he was insecure about how Southern he really was. Maybe it affected how he saw himself as an actor. People used to say, unfairly I think, that Burt only got roles because he was handsome. The guy who gave him his first TV deal said, quote, "I don't care whether he can act or not. Anyone who has this effect on women deserves a break." So this uncertainty, or lies, kind of raises questions about the other facts. Were Burt and Jerry real friends? While Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed were the best of buds on screen, it doesn't necessarily mean they were pals in real life. Were Snowman and the Bandit really thick as thieves? Okay, I won't lead you on too much. Was Burt and Jerry's friendship bogus? Negative, absolutely negative. Burt and Jerry's friendship did not end when the camera stopped rolling. And over the years, they became some of the closest friends in the entertainment biz. A business, I'm sure you know, where real friends are harder to find than a pig in a vat of Pepto-Bismol. Whether it was on TV, on set, or just hanging out, these two guys loved to mess around together. Burt actually gave Jerry a black 1980 Trans Am, just like in the film. I wonder if he gave him 400 cases of Coors, too. Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed, perfect examples of how, even in a cutthroat place like Hollywood, looking out for your buddies is super important. Without Jerry, Burt probably wouldn't have a reputation as a down-to-earth guy, and we wouldn't have Smokey and the Bandit. And without Burt, Jerry would just have to settle for being one of the best guitar players on the planet, never getting to act in films like he always wanted. One thing is for sure, they sure don't make them like they used to, huh?
Oh, shit.
So what do you think? What's your favorite movie Burt Reynolds ever did? Are you a fan of Smokey and the Bandit? And who out there enjoys the music of Jerry Reed? Get in the comments and tell me all things Burt Reynolds and all things Jerry Reed. If you enjoyed our video today, which I certainly hope you did, please give it a thumbs up if you don't mind. Subscribe to our channel and come back often so we can keep telling you
What